guy did some numbers and told me, Alfred, why don't you start your investment journey? Put aside 3,000 shillings. Spend the rest. My friend, that was not easy. Because that was the time people were paying just 1,000 shillings to get to Carnival, to eat, drink, and dance till dawn. When I turned 50 in 2023, my 3,000 shillings had increased the savings, monthly savings, to 347,000 per month. I started from 3,000. But in 23 years later, when I turned 50, I was saving a total of 347,000 per month. That in those 23 years, had managed to put together a fund of 16.6 million. And the 16.6 million was my own contribution, which was paid back to me with interest at my age of 50. And the amount that was paid to me at 50 was 38.6 million. It was paid as a one-off. That was my turning point. My name is Alfred Mathu. I'm a financial consultant. I run an intermediary firm in the consultancy area of finance called His Africa Insurance Agency. His Africa Insurance Agency is a reputed intermediary for two organizations. I serve Old Mutual and I also serve the Absa Life Assurance Company. These two are customer-centric financial giants that have been known for the longest history in the financial sector. They have served enough people in this country in terms of their financial agenda. We give end-to-end financial advice on areas that are critical to you on money. I come from a very humble family. Both my father and mother were farmers, just peasant farmers, doing just minimal farming for sustenance of the family. And when I grew up as the firstborn in the family, that every desire that I was going to become a teacher. My mother, on that was my father. They thought the top in the country was a teacher. My mom, on the other hand, because I went to a seminary, my mother had always hoped that I was going to become a priest. It is after clearing Form 4, and when I did my exams and passed, and got my admission letter to Moi University to go and do my BSc degree, that everything changed. One slightly, my mother got a bit disappointed because the priesthood that she always prayed for was now becoming another story. I was not going to go for priesthood. When I went to university and did the degree that I did, I graduated in 1998. Or I left campus in 1998. That was around March. And thankfully, in May, I added into a sales job with the Old Mutual Group. I was just job seeking like everyone else would do. But there's this friend of mine that told me, Alfred, because jobs are becoming difficult to come by, why don't you try a sales job? I know this company that's recruiting, is looking for salespeople. You might be lucky. You go and sell 1, 2, 3 policies, even as you look for a job. I added in Old Mutual in 1998, May, and we were a class of about 38 of us. We were recruited to become sales agents. It was when we were going through the training that I got to know that, by the way, our country needed financial education. And of course, remember that the background that I came from, my mother, my father, and even when I was in university, no one talked to me about managing money. So this was going to be a big opportunity in this country, of course, to educate people who are not very literate in terms of finance and help them navigate. In our class of 38 people, when we were done with the training, that was 2 months later, I was picked among 3 people that were later sent to South Africa for further training. Because Old Mutual, as you know, its roots dates from South Africa. And the reporting office for the Old Mutual Kenya group was South Africa. to South Africa, and I met and interacted with guys that had been in this career for the longest time. I especially met one guy called Tabitube. Tabitube had been in this practice for 40 years and was running his own consultancy with a wife and his 2 children. A highly successful business. And I still remember that even that time, the guy was doing a turnover in billions with Old Mutual, way back in 1998. And that already gave me a mind shift. For the very first time, I felt like this is where I needed to always be. And when I came back, I decided to give it my all. Running over the place, talking to them about investments, talking to them about investing for the children, talking to them about starting their retirement journey. And God was on my side. I hit the ground very, very, very hard. And within a few months, I started seeing the outcome of the work that I was doing. And that is the time I made my decision that I was not going to change the career. This is what I am going to pursue for life. But then I got a boss who was also a mentor. He was a South African. This gentleman from the onset got to know that I'm a firstborn in a family. And told me, Alfred, as you start off this career, I'd like to encourage you to start your investment journey as well. Because today, yes, you are 25 years, but there will come a date, you'll be 60, 50, and of course, looking forward to retirement. And that particular time, I remember I was doing an average monthly income of about 12,000 before tax, which was coming to about 10,976 or thereabout. This guy did some numbers and told me, Alfred, why don't you start your investment journey? Put aside 3,000 shillings. Spend the rest. My friend, that was not easy. Because that was the time people were paying just 1,000 shillings to get to Carnival, to eat, drink, and dance till dawn. 1,000 bob. You'd pay at the entrance 1,000 shillings, and they would put like a small badge on your hand. With that, you would eat and drink till dawn. The only thing you're not allowed to do is alcohol. And that's where my friends were going. But now that my 3,000 shillings immediately started going into some investment, I couldn't afford the lifestyle of Carnival. Exactly 1 year later, I was given a statement. So after you've put 36,000 shillings aside, your current fund value is 41. Wow. And then I realized something else. There's one of my very dear friends who we schooled together. And were earning more than the same amount. But he was not investing the 3,000 shillings that I was investing. But I realized that he was always as broke as me. Even without the investment, he was always as broke as me. And that taught me something. This life is about you, your discipline, your attitude. He's not investing anything and is as broke as me who is investing 3,000. So what my boss told me, every year, when your income increases, can you also review your investments upwards? And it became an annual discipline. Every year I would sit, look at my income and review the savings. My monthly savings moved very quickly from 3,000 to 5,000 to 9,000 to 16,000. Let me tell you, my brother, and this is why I talk to people about financial planning with this passion that you see. It is out of experience that I speak. My 3,000 shillings, when I turned 50 in 2023, my 3,000 shillings had increased the savings, monthly savings, to 347,000 per month. I started from 3,000. But in 23 years later, when I turned 50, I was saving a total of 347,000 per month. This is now the part you not believe. That in those 23 years, had managed to put together a fund of 16.6 million. And the 16.6 million was my own contribution, which was paid back to me with interest at my age of 50. And the amount that was paid to me at 50 was 38.6 million. It was paid as one-off. That was my turning point. that a journey of 3,000 shillings gave birth to that 8. And before I come to what I did with that 8 million shillings, you ask yourself a simple question. How many Kenyans could have afforded 3,000 shillings that time? Many. But how many of the people who could have afforded that didn't have that 8 million shillings 23 years later? Many. When I talked about why invest, I use my own example. That money that was paid, I sat down and reflected. I also consulted, and I came up to a decision that I don't have to spend this money. The original intention why I was investing was to give security to my family and also have a buffer for retirement. And this now was at a time when the industry conversations were majorly around bonds. And within the Old Mutual Group, there is this particular fund that is called the Private Wealth that invests primarily in infrastructure bonds and fixed bonds. And I picked just one that hit the market in July 2023. It hit the market in June, but I bought in the secondary market in July. But running for a period of 7 years with a coupon rate of 15.83%. That 8 million shillings was all put in that, but because I bought in the secondary market, it came down because of the discounts to about 37 point something million. By that amount, the basis of a bond is its infrastructure, but for that matter, you get your coupon or your interest every 6 months. My first coupon was to be paid in December 2023, the 18th. Next coupon to be paid on the 18th of June 2024. Next one, 18th of December 2024. And that has been the journey. So I've been getting every 6 months a payout in form of coupon from my fund. And the amount is attractive because it pays school fees for my children. Every 6 months, 2.97 million. My 38 million shillings is still intact. I'm only taking the coupon or the interest, which is taking care of the education of the children. And if you look at that, it's translating to an average of about 500,000 shillings every month. So what am I trying to say here? Only because I accepted the discipline of sacrificing 3,000, the conversation has since grown or busted into 500,000 shillings every month return. In your own terms, is that attractive or not? That is a gospel that forms the basis of my encouragement to people to invest. Because if you want to have that 38 million shillings now, can you start the journey? You won't have that 8 million shillings unless you get started. And that is the toughest part. Most of the people don't want the pain that comes with that investment, because the pain is around sacrifice. I'm telling you, you have less money in your pocket that you have to manage. The rest is going to investment. The Kenyan people want to spend. Every end of the month, like now we're getting to the end of the month, most of the hotels are full. Most of the lodgings are full. Most of the social places are full. People are enjoying their money. Only 3% are making the sacrifice. But 10, 15 years down the line, the ones that made the sacrifice will be laughing all the way to the bank. The ones that enjoyed everything on that day, the spenders, will be having the pain. But now you're realizing the mistakes that you did. You're realizing so late in life that you cannot be able to reverse the outcome. You can't. I'm telling you the information, the knowledge I have today. If I had it then, and assuming I had even more money that time, I would have gone an extra mile. I'm always saddened to see the young people dishing money all over the place in social lifestyles. Competing, Kenyans compete in spending. The mere fact that you've seen your friends going to Dubai for holiday, you want to copy-paste them. Because they're free economy, you want now to do business. And you can even go and talk about it. I'll tell you Justus, no one is going to remember how many flights you took, whether you flew business, whether you flew economy, whether you drove a Porsche, whether you had a Range Rover. No one will care. What do people care about? What will be your financial circumstance that time? If your spending does not put into account the lifestyle that you want 10 years from now, then it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Whatever you do with your money today should clearly tell us what you desire to achieve in the next 10 years. What I want to tell you is that it is when people have money or when they don't that we see their true personality in as far as the relationship with money is concerned. It has been established that there are 4 basic money personalities, and they all behave very, very differently. You could be in 2 at one time, but certainly there's a line that separates behavior at each stage. The first guy is a guy that we call a spender, and they're the majority in the society. People who live for today, they're about instant gratification. When they make money or when money hits their bank account, the guys become restless. For them, it's about, I need to go and satisfy myself and basically do this through the spending. These are people who are majorly funding lifestyles. In the society, you see them driving the most expensive cars, which they would ordinarily struggle to sustain if there was a slight disruption. You see these guys living in very suburbs, very expensive rental apartments. These are guys that are funding lifestyles. Every Friday when they meet with their friends, they connect with their friends, they connect with their peers. They're the ones hosting them in the social places. In a pub, they're the ones paying the bills. A lot of them will be swiping their credit cards. And they're doing these things to show you that, yes, I am who you can see me to be. I've made it. This guy will spend the last shilling. They don't fear what happens tomorrow. For them, the world starts and ends today. So they are not worried about tomorrow. They are not worried about risks of tomorrow. They are not worried about whether they will be able to sustain the same lifestyle tomorrow. But from a financial planning perspective, we say these guys are not able to put aside a minimum of 25% of their regular income into savings and investment. If I will take you back slightly, I'll start by telling you that the gentleman who is crusted as one of the wealthiest on earth called Warren Buffett. And this gentleman says that we should be spending the balance of investment. That's a very strong statement. We should be spending the balance of investment. Ordinarily, when people make money, their priorities are around spending. It is after spending that you'll most likely think about investments if there'll be a surplus, and hardly get surplus anyway. But according to Warren Buffett, you have to turn your life upside down. When you make money, you allocate the portion for investment first and then spend the balance. And out of this, we have been able to come up with a very revolutionary budget formula. We call it 25-50-25. And for me, this is why the rubber meets the road. The moment you adopt this formula and allow that you only spend guided by this particular budget formula, everything else will take shape. The first 25% of your regular income should be directed to savings and investment. And that is where the rubber meets the road. That is where you start your financial wellness conversation. First 25%, put it to savings and investment. The next portion, which is 50%, should take care of your needs. And the remaining 25% will take care of your lifestyle. And I could demystify this a bit. The portion for lifestyle, we are basically talking about wants, expenses that are not mandatory. They are majorly funding a lifestyle. And if I could give examples, there are people who are Christians and they believe in tithing, for example. They do offertory in church, but no one is going to force you to do it. It's a covenant between you and your God. That portion that you have got to tithe comes from lifestyle account. If you decide to take your family out for dinner, the amount you're going to spend out there with your family comes from lifestyle account. If you decide to upgrade your car, the amount that you need to upgrade the car should come from lifestyle account. If you decide to take your family for an exotic holiday, the amount you're going to spend should come from that lifestyle account. Should you decide to upgrade your gadgets, say for example, you decided to go for the iPhone 17 Pro Max, that amount should come from your lifestyle account. No one is going to compel you how much to spend. It is a decision you make yourself based on your status. I know these days ladies are spending as much as 300,000-400,000 shillings on wigs. Again, no one is going to force you to a 400,000-500,000 shillings worth of wig. It's a decision you make based on your status. You will see people having jewelry all over the place. How much people spend even on watches, because I know some people are spending millions. That's a question of status. And the 25% that I'm talking about should actually be able to fund anything that has got to do with your lifestyle and your status. Now, let me come back to the 50%. And where I'm saying that portion should be able to meet your needs. It is always recommended that you live within or below means. Don't spend more than 50% of your income on needs. And here, needs are looking at expenses that are mandatory. The ones that you are not able to skip in a month. For example, food for the family. For example, shelter. The very basic needs. These days, internet has become a basic need. So those compulsory expenses should fit within the 50% mark of your income. Now, come to the first 25%, and which, as I said, Warren Buffett recommends that you should be directed to savings and investment. You're not going to take all that and put in one particular basket, but you have to diversify the scope so that your risks are contained. The first 20% of the 25% allocation will take care of emergency funding. And that's very, very important. That's where the young people should start. When you start making money, can you teach yourself that not all the money that I make on a monthly basis, regardless of how much, that we should spend. There is the portion for spending, but there should also be a portion that you allocate to start your savings and investment journey. So the first 20% of the 25 will go to starting your savings and investment journey, and that is where we build an emergency fund. I always tell people that the reason why you need this emergency fund is because this life has got enough emergencies, and there's no emergency that will ever give you notice. They just happen. When you're driving here, maybe you got a tire burst. Maybe your phone was snatched. And these are things that need replacement like immediately. So where will you get money to buy a phone right now? Where will you get money to buy tires of your car right now? Such are monies that you put for emergency account. You don't have to cause drama. That because your phone was stolen, everyone in the country must know that your phone was stolen. People don't have to know that you had a tire burst. You could easily, handle that emergency quietly without calling people, pull money from an emergency account, buy the new tire, replace the phone, and carry on with life. It's recommended that you build a threshold of 3 to 6 times of your monthly financial requirements. And the question that a lot of people keep asking me, how much money should I put in an emergency account? 3 to 6 times of your monthly financial requirements at the least. So if every month you need 50,000 to be able to meet your financial obligations, build at least an emergency fund with a minimum of 3 times of that, which will be about 150,000, but up to 6 times of it, which will be about 300. So when you are playing between 150 to 300,000 shillings in an emergency fund, you'll be fairly stable. If you decide to go beyond that, is again driven by your financial circumstances, but at the very least 3 to 6 times. And this money must be placed in an environment where it can be accessed easily, whether it's in the night, during the day, over the weekend, over the holiday, that you just need your phone and you'll be able to go online, redeem the funds, of course, based on the requirement easily, and be able to address the situation and move on. I'm talking about the emergency funding. The second element is that we need now to build our contractual investments. And here we're looking at medium-term goals. When you have built sufficient funding for emergencies, you cannot stop the journey there. The journey continues. The next thing that now drives you is, how can I now get into because the money market is not a very aggressive fund. It competes with savings accounts, more or less. In terms of month-on-month return or year-on-year return, it's a very conservative fund. You would not expect so much because the money is actually put into near cash instruments so that you're able to access easily. But now when you're starting to look for aggressive return against your investment, you'll put this money into an investment environment. And in this space now, we start looking at goals that you want to accomplish in the next minimum of 5 years, but by your age of 50. Why 50? Because after 50, the conversation changes to retirement. The moment you hit 50, everything changes. Even your energy levels start changing. Your productivity starts changing at workplace. And you can easily be replaced after 50. So you start thinking more aggressively about what should I do when I retire. Now, let me talk about this medium term. And as I said, depending on when you want to get started, the entry will be minimum of 5 years and maximum of 20 years, or you are 50 years for that matter. And I'm looking at the goals that you want to accomplish in that space. This is where people talk about goals such as maybe a young person want to buy a plot and build it. A young person might be talking about, I want to buy a house. I want to buy an apartment. I want to start my own private practice. And I need capital for that. I need to educate my children. I'm now married. You know, when you are, think about the emergency, you might or might not have been married even. You might not even be having responsibilities. And that's why you just needed to make a good foundation. But now in the second phase, you already think about how can I grow my wealth to be able to accomplish some certain goals that I need to have achieved before retirement. And as I said, the retirement conversion most likely will start now at 50 plus. So say we talk about a 25-year-old person, a young person of 25 years. And one of the goals that is driving them is maybe this guy wants to buy a house one day. And he's given himself a timeline. The timeline, say, is 10 years. So at 25, you have decided to buy a house by age of 35, which is 10 years later. So you got exactly 120 salaries, out of which you plan and save and invest to build a fund that can sensibly buy or build a house. One of the things that we realize when you think about medium-term investments is discipline and patience. We talk about buying a house in the next 10 years. You must be so intentional, and the same must be supported by discipline, that you give that goal priority, that I have to achieve this by age of 35. And the house I want to buy, working with the current the numbers in the market right now, maybe if the house that you decide to buy or you decide to build, right now they are going for, say, 5 million. You can actually try to do some estimations that a house that is going for 5 million shillings today, in the next 10 years, working with an inflation rate of about maybe 6-7%, that house might be costing me something like 13 million in the next 10 years. So how can I build a fund of 13 million shillings in the next 10 years? Then you work backwards. That's what you now call the contractual investments, that will design a program which you be contributing contractually every month or every year or every quarter or every 6 months in a disciplined way, and you have a goal that you want to accomplish, and that goal is going to be accomplished on the 10th year. So on the 10th year, we'll give you money out of the investment that you did so that you can go and purchase or build the house that you had decided from the onset. And of course, between now and the 10th year, there are enough risks. How do you manage and navigate through these risks? There could be a risk of death. There could be a risk of disability. There could be a risk of critical illness. But because the goal is already there, how can I ensure that even with all these risks, the goal is still going to be accomplished? That's why I decide, or we've packaged the contractual investment to be able to give you a benefit in case you got disabled along the way, that the agenda that you wanted to accomplish, it will still be accomplished, because the disability benefit will kick in and take care of the agenda. In case you got critical illness along the way, somebody has been diagnosed with cancer and had an intention of putting funds together for buying a house, that the idea of buying the house still remains. But the bills that will come because of the critical illness will now be taken care of by the critical illness benefit, for ensuring the long-term agenda is not disrupted. In case of death, the goal that you had for to buy or build a house, and maybe you wanted to do that for your family, you have children, that they'll still have a house in the next 10 years. Because upon death, there's a lump sum to be paid, which will ensure that the family has enough cash to be able to achieve the agenda that you had for the 10th year. I'm talking about medium-term goals. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, procrastination never gives them the space. Everyone thinks that they are young until when they are not. You are 25 years now. In the next 3, 4, 5 years, you're actually going to be touching 30. If you're not careful and intentional to sit, settle, and work with a budget and focus on the goal that you had, you might never achieve it. Time will come and pass. And you just find yourself among the many people out there who are doing nothing, just going out in circles, giving the same excuses, living the same lifestyle, not willing to make sacrifice. Some people are hoping to make it without struggle, without sacrifice. It's not possible. There's some certain level of financial discipline that is needed to accomplish the important goals in life. But you look at most of the young people, for example, they surround themselves with friends who are not really focused in life. Anytime you come up with an agenda to invest, they discourage you. Anytime you're about to embark on a goal, they'll come up with stories why you shouldn't do it now. A lot of them want to get there without struggle. A lot of them are waiting for their parents to die so that you can inherit. A lot of them are waiting, I'm waiting for my father to die. That's how I'm going to get myself a Range Rover. The one that my father drives is the one I will inherit. I'll wait for my father to die so that I can take over his house. I'll wait for my father to die or to get old, then we'll push him into distributing his assets instead of going the normal way of building your own assets. I was talking about the medium-term investments. Let me briefly touch on the long term so that I can come there to the money personalities now to try and show you how do these 4 money personalities, behave in as far as the financial planning journey is concerned. The remaining 30% of the 25 is majorly for retirement funding. I'm looking at your retirement requirements. You need to build enough cushion for old age. Because when you are there, you may not have the physical energy that you have today. But the goals are still there. The bills are still growing. One thing that people have never been told is that bills will never retire. Every single day, they are moving to the next level. Up to last year, you were spending 100,000 shillings to sustain yourself and your family. This year, the 100,000 shillings is not enough. The cost of living is increasing by the day. So even when you retire, the cost of living continues going up. The medical care cost continues going up. The fuel cost continues going up. You see, so are you properly planned that when you get to the old age phase and when economic productivity start coming down, that you have enough financial cushion to sustain you and enable you to maintain your lifestyle? The saddest reality for people is that their desire is to buy a Range Rover at old age, but they're investing for a Pro Box. And the reality is going to dawn on them. We live for today, and we use our resources to fund today's lifestyle, forgetting that anything that you're not able to sustain at old age won't make sense. It's good to live in Lunda. It's good to live in Karen. It's good to live in Muthaiga. It's good to live in Roresho. It's good to live in Riverside. Everyone would actually want to live in those river suburbs. But the question is, will you be able to sustain that lifestyle when you retire? Because for me, the saddest reality that dawns on people is when you lived in these river suburbs and at old age, you are pushed to the outskirts. Can you imagine migrating from Runda to go and live in Kitengera? Can you imagine moving from Kirereshwa to go and settle at Mwihoko? Can you imagine moving from Karen to go and live in Gong? And I'm not saying that those places are bad. Get me right. Those places that I'm talking about in the outskirts are not bad. But the question is, where do you start? Because the bulk of the people climb their tree from up going down. You live in Karen when you are in your productive phase, but when you are retiring and most likely you need to be closer to hospitals, you need to be closer to their friends, you need to be closer to where you can get the services that you need, like shopping malls. That's the time you are going to the outskirts. Places that you cannot even be able to walk around in the night. You lived in Karen and you were used to jogging in the morning. You and your spouse could even do a morning jog. But now you live at old age, you're living in a place where you can't step out of the gate because thugs are all over the place. When you are young, you drove the best car. You'd always pick a car from the showroom. Now at old age, you're driving a junk which keeps stalling in the middle of the road every now and then. And that's the time that you actually are most needy. You actually need to have certainty that if I drive this car, I'll get to my destination, because I'm old. I may not have the energy to open the bonnet and do the things that people must do to get the car run. You drove the best car when you are young. Now you are driving a junk at old age. You used to fly to Mombasa business when you are young, energetic. Now you're using SGR at old age. At that time, you had the capacity to withstand back pains and use SGR, but you chose first class, KQ. Now at old age, your body does not have the capacity to withstand that pressure of SGR, but you're forced to go that route because you can't afford any other option. You used to go to holidays over the place in the world. Dubai was the obvious destination for shopping and sightseeing. Now at old age, the farthest you can go is Uhuru Park. What kind of mindset is this? And that is where Kenyans are. That's where Kenyans are. Everything that you make, instead of starting to think about, how about that time I will not be able to work? That time I'll be old. That time I might be having old age illnesses. Maybe you have arthritis. You have kidney problems. You have heart problems. Maybe you have prostate cancer. Maybe you have, all manner of old age terminal illnesses. And where you need the most care, that's where you're not even getting it. Let me even give you a weird example. I'm a member of Parkland Sports Club, a lovely family club. I see lots of people, when they retire, they come to terminate their membership. When you have retired, maybe at 60, 61, that's when you need to connect with people. You need to get out of the house. You need to get out of the house. You can't stay in that house throughout your time. You need to connect with friends. You need to come to the gym. You need to come and swim. You need to come to the library. You need to come to the salon. You need to come to the barber shop. But you know what? At old age, a lot of these guys won't afford the normal development levies charged in the club every year, and which is not much. That's the time you're coming to terminate the membership, because you can no longer afford. But when you're young and energetic, you're all over the place splashing money, instead of keeping some of it for your future. I'm talking about retirement, and which should ideally take a minimum of 30% of the 25% allocation to build enough savings that when you retire, that savings will give you the cushion. You continue enjoying your lifestyle as though nothing has happened. Can you imagine you're retired and you're still going to showroom to buy a new car? What a lovely thing. Can you imagine you're retired and you're still going for international holidays? What a lovely thing. Can you imagine you are retired and you still fly business class? Can you imagine you are old and retired and you're still buying new clothes from your normal clothes store? So what am I talking about here? What I'm saying, when it comes to financial planning, you've got to be very, very intentional. You know what you want to achieve, and you know what it takes to achieve. But then the discipline is most important. Now, let's come back to the money personalities. So what I'm talking about, these spenders, is that for them, they don't care. Everything, they are just leaving to God. They think God is in the business of doing the retirement planning for you. He has given you the wisdom, he's given you the resources, he's given you the money, he has given you a good brain, but you choose just not to use all that to build your security. So the spenders. And I'll tell you, there are people who belong to some groups with friends, and which they sustain with their own resources. That every so often when you meet your friends, you are the one buying them beer, you are the one buying them meat, you are the one hosting them, you are doing all these things, parties every now and then. But let me tell you the truth. The day money will run away from your account, the day you be broke, those friends that you've been hosting will block your number. Statistics show very, very clearly. The moment you get broke, all the friends that have always been part of your life will not be part of you anymore. No one wants to deal with a broke person. That every time you see a call coming from your friend James or from your friend Elizabeth, you know they're borrowing money. It's just a matter of time before you broke that person. Spenders have to be very, very careful. And they have to start having the discipline and the commitment to realize that what they're doing today with their money they need to be sure if they can be able to sustain the same lifestyle at later stage. And if not, can you start allocating some of your monies to build the cushion that you need? The second category are people that we call dreamers. Very interesting category. So who are dreamers? These are people who start and end their financial planning in the dreaming. These are people who in December or at the eve of the new year, they had New Year resolutions that in the new year, these are the 2 or 3 things that I want to accomplish. Maybe one of them is to go back to the gym, shed off a bit of weight, 2-3 kilos you want to shed. A month down the line, the person is still figuring out which gym to join. A month down the line, the guy is still eating as though we are in Christmas mood. A month down the line, the guy is putting up even more weight than he had in December. This song that they sang this year, that person sang it last year. And they're definitely going to sing it next year. The only thing they might slightly tweak is the chorus. And they'll have somebody to blame for not taking action. I could have done this and that, but I ended up because of so and so. These are dreamers. They start and end their financial planning in the dreaming. They're in their dreamland. They have got so many things they keep talking about that they want to accomplish. You know, this year I want to start my money market account. This year I want to clear my credit card debts. You know, this year I'm starting off a mortgage. You know, this year I'm starting my personal pension plan. They have too many things they want to achieve, but they're not achieving any because they are planless. They are not committed. Procrastination is taking toll on them. They keep postponing. And every time they have an excuse why they are not doing it today. They are majorly in the boardrooms planning, but not executing anything. They have somebody to blame for the goals they never achieved. And from a financial planning perspective, a dreamer is this type of a person who now 50% of the goals and resolutions they had for the year are either not going to be started or completed within the calendar year. Yes, we had 5 goals we wanted to achieve this year. How many of them did you achieve? If you didn't achieve at least a minimum of 50%, then know that you are a dreamer. And in some cases, what surprises me about dreamers is that a whole year down the line, they're yet to start. I would rather even somebody who started and only pushed to 30% or 40%. Dreamers, they'll just go around in circles. They're not achieving much. The dreamer will get to retirement age, planning for retirement, but not actualizing. They know at the back of their mind, I need 40 million for retirement. I need 10 million shillings. I need 15 million shillings. But they only sing the song. They are not getting started. The same song, they'll keep singing it year in, year out. They're dreamers. And there are many in the society. You know, spending money is sweet. Spending money is very, very, very sweet. When you see people walking to shopping malls carrying their debit cards and the credit cards, and every time eating out, buying the latest gadgets in town, driving the latest car in town, spending money in Kenya is sweet, especially those that have it. Now, to transition from that lifestyle of where you've been enjoying to a lifestyle now where you have to enjoy in moderation means some sort of sacrifice. People are not willing to abandon their current lifestyle because, one, perception. I've been driving Jeep all the years. I've been driving Porsche all the years. I've been driving Land Cruisers all the years. What will people see or interpret of my transition from a V8 to a Harrier? That perception alone makes you not to take up that step of faith and sacrifice that is demanded for you to transition from a particular money personality to another. You want to portray to the society what you are not. Because you live in Kireshua and you're spending all your money in that apartment, you want everyone to always have a permanent mindset that, you know, sure, Justus does well. Alfred does well. So-and-so does well. They live in Karen. They live in these suburbs. Moving from that apartment where you've been spending 150,000 shillings to one that you're most likely going to be spending 50,000, you're more worried about the perception. What will people say? What will people think about me? So I think for me, the moment you take up a lifestyle that is not sustainable, making that sacrifice to abandon that lifestyle, to go to one that will allow that you create room for savings and investment. It's not a very easy transition. There are people who are used to eating out. They even have accounts at Java. They have accounts at KFC. They have accounts at Cafe. That when you go to the office, you just call, and within minutes, a rider is there delivering coffee and some snacks and stuff that you eat. Abandoning that lifestyle is not very, very easy. It's not easy. So the point here is, I think right from the onset, people need to have this financial literacy that speaks to them about future from the present, so that you prepare appropriately. Don't take up a lifestyle that you think you can't be able to sustain. Don't take up a lifestyle that is going to be so disruptive, never leaving any room for you to do any savings and investment. As I said, that these are the guys that call the dreamers. Now we go to the next category, guys that call the savers. Now, something very interesting about savers is that they're risk averse. They want to grow their portfolio, but they don't want the risk. These are guys who are even happier keeping their money under the mattress. They are guys who leave their money in a bank account, savings account at the bank, and every so often they pull a mini statement to see the bank balance. They're happy to see the money is intact. That last week my bank balance was 1,210,040. They're happy to see the exact amount every 2 weeks. For them, they don't care whether it's not appreciating. And some of them are even losing to bank charges. And they're not even thinking about it. They're risk averse. They don't want any risk. You know, when you want to grow your portfolio, you must also be willing to take up some bit of risk. Because investment comes with risk. The problem with savers is that they just want to keep their money in an environment where there is zero risk. And in an environment where you talk about zero risk, then growth is also zero. Even when you buy RAD for speculation, there's risk. When you buy shares, there's risk. When you buy bonds, there's risk. When you buy a contractual investment, there is risk. I mean, this life is about risks. Question is, how much risk are you willing to take for the value that you project? If you're not willing to take up any risk, my friend, you'll never grow your portfolio at all. And that's the only thing that the savers need to know. Now, I've said 25, 50, 25. And this first 25, the first 20% is going to emergency funding, 50 is going to contractual savings, and the 50% goes to retirement investment. Now, this first 20%, which is going into emergency funding, if you're directing all that you have in liquid form into an emergency account, it will keep you well cushioned in case of an emergency, but that portfolio will not grow. Because it's a very conservative it's in a very conservative environment. It only competes with banks. Right now we talk about 8-9% return every year. Banks are in the space of maybe 5, 6, 7%. But you've got enough investments in Kenya which are currently doing 13-14%. So if you want to be in this environment of savings, you can't enjoy the 13%. That's the point. If you want to be this environment of savings, which is very conservative, which is potentially give you 8-9%, you can't enjoy a return of 13% when you are in the savings environment. You have to make a decision to move the portfolio to an investment environment. So with the savers, the problem with them is that they're so much risk averse. They don't want any risk. Do you know even coming to this office was a risk? You drove. Or an Aruba carried you. You had no certainty of getting here. There are enough road accidents on these roads. If you're coming some 5-10 kilometers away, there are enough potential risks between where you live and where you came. In fact, even staying in the house has risk. Even staying around the house has risk. You know, I hear people saying, let's look at going to Mombasa. There are many ways. You can choose a motorbike to get you to Mombasa. You can choose Uber to get you to Mombasa. You can use your own car to get you to Mombasa. You can use a bus to get you to Mombasa. You can use a shuttle can get to Mombasa. You can also fly to get to Mombasa. You can also do SGR to get to Mombasa. Out of all those options that I've talked about, which one do you think is the safest? I would most likely say SGR, right or not? But in terms of getting to Mombasa, which is likely to get to Mombasa fastest? Is it SGR? No. SGR will not get to Mombasa fastest. You are almost so sure accidents there are minimal, but the speed will be the problem. Flying to Mombasa will take you 45 minutes. But how about if there was a technical problem in the air? Chances of survival are nil. If the plane is coming down from 30, 40,000 feet above sea level, chances of survival are zero. If a train had an accident, chances are 99% that maybe a few injuries here and there, but casualties minimal. Minimal. But how about the plane? Almost 100%. But on the other hand, getting to Mombasa by plane, 45 minutes. Getting to Mombasa via SGR, maybe 8-9 hours. How about your motorbike? The motorbike might get you to Mombasa in the next maybe 4 hours. But how many accidents do you think you're potentially going to miss on the road? Many. So I think the understanding that we should have is that if you're looking for higher return, you should also be willing to take up higher risk. If you're very conservative in your mindset, then you should also be very conservative in terms of your investment expectations. And that is now the area where the person in the savings environment loses. You want to grow the portfolio, but you're not willing to take up a bit of risk. So you're keeping the money in the bank account. And here down the line, it's not giving you much value. So we generally say a saver is this type of a person whose 20% allocation into the savings environment is primarily going into savings account. I hope I'm making sense. That you got 20, 50, 30, with the 20% going to savings environment, which is the emergency account. If you are allocating more than 20% into the savings environment, you are a saver. You are risk averse. Your satisfaction is driven by the bank balance. You know, when you're leaving so much money in the bank account, especially in the savings account, the bank, if there's anyone that smiles all the way, it's the bank manager. And the only thing they see in you is a fool. The bank is making money at your expense. Then they'll commit money in investment instruments, which you're not willing to take up because you're risk averse. They'll make 15-16% and you are getting nothing. Because what can you get from a savings account? If you leave $1 million shillings in your savings account for 1 month, it's giving you nothing. If anything, you might even get less because of the bank charges. But that same 1 million shillings has potentially made for them 1.5% return. Assuming that you are working with an instrument of 18% per year, it means that within a month, the bank has made 1.5% of your money. So what is 1.5% of 1 million? It's 15,000. The bank made 15,000, you made zero. That's where the savers are. The bank and the investment companies, the investment companies where you've placed the savings are the ones who are making the gain, not you. That is the saver for you. Let me go to the final guy. This is called an investor. The reality of an investor is that they're not defined by their bank balance. Because just as today, you could have 5 million in the bank. You could have 10 million in the bank. You could have 40 million in the bank. That alone does not define you to be an investor. An investor is defined by the way they socialize and relate with their money. They have established a relationship, which the money understands. That for them, money comes to the bank, not because that is its destination, but it's in transition. Money is coming to the bank because it's going somewhere else. And you know the good thing with an investor is that they are the ones who direct where the money is going. They're in charge of the money movement. They're in charge of the money movement. To the contrary, a spender is not in charge of the money movement. The money is the one directing. The money is the one directing. If you don't give your money direction, it will find its own direction. It will still move. Money will not stay in the bank account. It will not stay in the pocket. It will not stay in the Mpesa. If you're not very intentional in giving that money direction that it should take, it will still find its way. Unfortunately, it finds its way into the wrong things, wrong expenses. Now, coming back to the investor, what I'm saying is that this guy shows his money where to go. And these are people who work with budgets. They sit down, write down their goals. You know, the saddest reality of most of the people is that they never write down their goals. The new year is with us here. There are things that you want to achieve. There are things that you want to accomplish. If you have to achieve, it becomes critical that you write down. And because it is known globally that Kenyans have a problem of memory. Kenyans have a problem of memory. Whatever that you decide or you desire to achieve, write it down, put it in a conspicuous corner of your house or your bedroom so that you're reminded every day. Whatever that you desire to achieve this year, write it down. Give it a timeline. I want to accomplish this by 31st of December 2026. I want to accomplish this by that 1st of December 2029. Give yourself a timeline. Work with a specific budget. And then the discipline will just take shape. Every time you be doing your regular audit, you assess yourself. Am I still on track? The interesting thing about an investor is that they work and work with accountability partners. You need somebody who has been down that road. They know the direction. They know the bumps. And they're the ones telling you, slow down. They're the ones who tell you that engage the next gear. They're the ones who will tell you that, by the way, raise the window because this area is a bit dusty. They're the ones who tell you that raise the window. This place has monkeys. They're the ones who tell you, please, raise your window because here your phone can easily be picked. You are walking with somebody who has been down that road. They hold your hand. They show you the way. Those are accountability partners. When you're about to make a certain decision, the guy will tell you, hey, hold on, Justus, please. Don't try that route. That will mess you up. Don't try that law firm. They have a very bad reputation. Don't try with that bank. They have got pathetic after-sale services or customer service. This guy has been down that road. He's an accountability partner. But no, the ordinary men and women in our country, the people they call the accountability partners are simply drinking mates and eating mates. They are not there to tell you anything else. They only tell you where you can get cheap food. They only tell you where you can get cheap liquor. They are not meant for anything that pertains to your growth financially. Those guys that you are trusting with your ideas and opinions, they have not even invested. What can they advise in investment? You know, my brother, where I come from, we believe that if I'm traveling today and I've got some goats in my compound, I need to leave these goats with somebody. You are advised, leave your goats with somebody who has goats. Don't leave your goats with somebody who has camels. Don't leave your goats with somebody who has got cows. You need somebody who has got the technical expertise of dealing with goats. So check and be clear that the person you are entrusting with your goats has goats himself. So you'll be able to take care of yours. If you are a mother and you're going on a safari and you need to leave your children to somebody, can you leave your children to somebody who has had children? Because that person knows how to deal with children when they cry. That person knows how to deal with children when their temperature goes up. But you're leaving your children with a bachelor who has no clue of how to take care of the children. You're leaving your children with a spinster. She has never gotten a child. She has no clue how to take care of the children. So when it comes to investment matters, if my brother, you have to achieve the bigger investment agenda, can you bring somebody who has invested close to you? They'll show you the skills. They show you the how. They show you the when. They've got the knowledge. This is the accountability partner for you. They're very intentional. They write budgets. They don't allow procrastination. And one baseline about them is that they invest a minimum of 25% of their regular income. I will tell you it's difficult. Investing a minimum of 25% of the regular income means that you value your future so much that you're willing to make the sacrifice today. How many people are willing to do that? Let me tell you statistically, only 3% of the working population is on the right path to financial wellness. The rest are in financial deathbed. When you hear that somebody is on financial deathbed, they are literally dead in as far as financial planning is concerned. They are walking to their future without clue of what they're going to be doing, without budgets. They have no targets. I mean, they're just there in their own world. It is when they get the finish line that they'll be hit hard by the reality. Because we always say that it is when the tide goes down that we get to know who was swimming naked. You get to know that you are swimming naked when you have no option. You have no time left. You have no energy. You have no resources. You had no clue. So an investor is very intentional. They write down the things they want to achieve. They give themselves the timeline. They give themselves the budget. And they are so disciplined to follow the basic steps. For them, it's not just about now. They diversify the scope of investment. They're not investing in one asset class. They're very diversified that they get into multiple so that you ultimately enjoy the cushion that you need in case of disruption on one. Imagine the guys that were doing tour businesses, the tour operators, and then COVID hit them, or COVID hit us generally. If that person didn't have any other option, and all that you are doing from morning to evening is tour management, tour operation, you know that, a lot of those guys sank, and they're not going to get back on their feet anytime soon. But somebody who had grown beyond that one income stream, that the incomes that you made from your tour business, you perhaps did some rental houses. You perhaps invested some of the money in the money market. You perhaps invested some of the money into some bonds. You perhaps took some contractual investments. It means when we got disrupted by COVID, that person only switched gear. They stopped relying on the tour business because you see, the tour business, we were put in a lockdown. There was no going out of Nairobi. There was no going to Mombasa. There was no going out of the country. So the tour operators didn't have anything to do with the traveling because now there's no one who was traveling. We were all forced to stay, within a particular, circumference. If you're in Roiro, the farthest could go was just within Roiro. You're not even allowed to come to CBD. If you're in Westlands, you're only allowed to stay within Westlands. So the tour operators had nothing to do. Nothing to do. So those that had diversified their scope of investment resulted now into relying on these other options to sustain them. But how about the person that did so well in the tour business but had nothing outside of the tour company? Those are the guys that sank. So this is something that the investor knows, that you need to be diversified. In fact, diversification is biblical. It is divine instruction by God. And it is very clearly written in the Bible. 7 to 8 streams of income. It's in the Bible. But how many of the people know these things? How many of the people are living by the Spirit of God's word? You will know that you are financially successful when you make money in bed. You will know, let me repeat that. You will know that you are financially successful if you are making money in bed. Because the biggest population only makes children. When you start making money in bed, then you know that you are becoming financially successful. That the investment that you've done in the past are making for you money when you're still sleeping. That you can afford to go and play golf from Monday to Sunday without worry of bills. Because the investments that you've done out there are generating enough passive income that can sustain your lifestyle. The Kenyan people cannot even be able to go on a long holiday. They take their children to Dubai. On the second day, you're asking for the interim bill. We are planless. Most of the people are planless. So as an investor, or if you want to become an investor, you need to have some of these disciplines from the onset. A lot of people start prioritizing financial gospel when they're retiring. In fact, they are all over the place. At 55, coming to offices to ask if we got any mechanism of multiplying and doubling the money within the next 2 years. We don't have. The straight answer is that we don't have. They come saying, no, I'm retiring in 2 years. And I've been told that I will get some 5 million. After that, I want to get this 5 million shillings and you need to give me advice. Where can I put this money so that I can double in the next 2 years? Because I'll be retiring. we don't have an option. You need to have seen us earlier so that you could have come up with a good structure of building your and multiplying your funds over time. Coming to us the 9th hour won't be able to mean much. I tell people, the same way we talk about doctors. When do you need to see your doctor? You need to see your doctor when you are medically fit, so that the doctor can confirm that you are indeed medically fit. When they check, they'll tell you, by the way, your cholesterol is slightly up. Can you regulate? Can you bring it down a bit? Maybe you need a bit of exercise. They'll tell you that when you touch your skin, you need a bit of hydration. So can you increase the amount of water that you take? They will check that your weight, you are slightly overweight. Can you bring down, you can't cut off this weight to this much? Reduce carbohydrates, reduce starch, so that your weight can come down to this level. That's the time to see a doctor. But Kenyan people, do you know when nobody got to see doctors? It is when you are critically sick. You cannot even talk. It is your relatives that are doing the talking for you. Now they are talking about pain in the shoulder, and the pain has since migrated to the legs. And that's why we have too many cases of misdiagnosis in Kenya. Because it is not the patient who talks, it is the relatives. They're describing a pain in the leg, which has since moved to the head. Because the patient is not able to talk. So similarly, when it comes to financial planning, can you come and see financial advisors at the end point when you are getting into your career, not when you're in a mess? People normally come to look for numbers when they are being auctioned. They want remedy because the auction is on the newspaper. Your house is going to be sold next week. What can I do to somebody whose house is going to be sold next week? The most I can do is to pray for you and let God take control. But if you really want financial advice, don't wait until when you're in a mess. That's that you go to see a financial advisor. You know, some of us may not even charge you. When you're talking about money tips or money management tips, there's an animal that I use called the lion. And I have a question for you. Between a male lion and a lioness, who hunts? The lioness, the female, is the one who hunts. When the gazelle has been killed, who eats first? Isn't there a lesson that you pick out of that? Now, let me give a different example. If you're flying from here to Dubai, and you are calling with your family, your wife and 2 children, you're always told, in case of a technical problem in the air, put your own life jacket first. They never tell you to put the one for your child. They never tell you to put the one for your wife. You put yours first. You don't give what you don't have. You give because you had. Between you and me, your mother does not know how much you earn. It's you who knows. Your father does not know how much you earn. It's you who knows. Your siblings don't know how much you earn. It's you who knows. It is very important, of course, based on the background that most of us come. It is very important to support the family. But it is equally important to put boundaries and limits in place. I'll tell you a story. Last year in March, at Parkland Sports Club, I sat with this young lady from Standard Chartered Bank. And she's now a mother of 2. And at the age of 35, she told me that Alfred have not achieved much in life. And she gave me a reason. She told me that when I started working on my firstborn, my father and mother were struggling with a loan that they had taken with Cooperative Bank. And they had reached a point where their financial ability to pay the loan had run out. So they were now struggling. Every little money they could make, they're directing to paying off the debt. But it's a point now where they were defaulting. They couldn't. Unfortunately, the pressure to pay the loan was now starting to affect the relationship between the father and the mother. A lot of times, the father will come home, he doesn't want to talk to anyone because of the pressure of the loan. At times, the mother feeling like, hey, this is too much. I wish I never got married to this man. They were both suffering under the weight of that debt. So when this girl started working, she works for a big bank in Kenya, She immediately joined a circle. And after some time of saving in that circle, she qualified for a Kenya banker's loan through the circle. You know what she did? She took a loan of 1.6 million shillings, which was the outstanding amount for the parents' loan, went and deposited that money in the father's account to help them clear that debt. At the back of her mind, she knew she was giving them a lease of life. Such a relief at a time when they're not even talking to each other. You come in and tell them, you know what, guys? You matter a lot to me. You sacrifice for me, I want to sacrifice for you. That loan that has been giving you guys nightmare stands cleared today. I'm depositing this amount in daddy's account, or you guys, your joint account, so the bank can recover in full that amount. And that's what happened. The debt was cleared, and again, there was honeymoon in that family. There was a big reunion in that family. There was a lot of peace in that family. There was a lot of joy in that family. There was a lot of celebration. But that didn't last long. Exactly 2 months later, the father took another loan. Why are you looking at me badly? I'm talking about black tax. You never put limits. So they have known you can abandon your own financial responsibilities to deal with our own. You can abandon what we are doing to come and deal with ours. So they are willing to take up another debt because they know you can always come in and support. That is the world that a lot of people are battling with. I lost my father some few years back, maybe some 9 years now. And he was my good friend. My mom is still with us, and we are thankful to God. But just like any other parent, my mom would always be broke. Even when my father was there, my father was always broke. And one day, I remember we were having our Christmas break. I was seated there with my brothers and my sisters. And our last born brother asked Mom, when we were all in school, you guys paid the school fees. Now none of us in school. What reason can you give of being broke? Mom kept quiet and had this answer to give later on. That God gives you enough for your day's problems. Now that you're not paying school fees, God removed the school fees account and the funding that was coming with it. That's why you see us in this kind of a situation even when you're not paying school fees. And there's some, I just want to pick out of that. Like any other parent, my mom would call me, would call my other brother, would call my other sister, like that. And every time, please, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And being a firstborn, I called my siblings together one day and we had lunch. I told them, guys, I want us to direct our corrective effort to supporting these parents. And because we don't want them to have bias in their relationship with us, they will not know how much each contributes. But I want us to have a kitty where every month we'll be sending a certain amount of money to our mom. Of course, by that time, our dad had already died. But he agreed. So I've got 7 brothers and 2 sisters. So we all agreed. How much can you contribute every month towards mom support, shopping and everything? Mom has got 2 domestic workers. It's a young lady that works there. There's also a young man that works there. So we agreed. This is the amount of money we need, and this is how we are going to be contributing. I've got a young brother that works with Central Bank. So that guy, being the banker in the family, he's the one who collects this money. Every 5th of the month, we send money to our brother. And then he channels that money as a lump sum to my mom. So it comes from one kitty. Now, my mom doesn't call any one of us anymore. She doesn't call any one of us anymore. Because she knows this money that she receives comes from all of us together. And she has no clue who contributes what. Because when we came up with the kitty, it was on voluntary basis. I'll be contributing 5,000, I'll be contributing 3,000, I'll be contributing 4,000, I'll be contributing 6,000. It was voluntary. And that's how we address the question of black tax. Beyond that, the contribution that we are doing as a family, the small surplus that is left, we keep it together as a money market fund that can actually be able to address any emergency that may be unforeseen. So in case of an emergency within the family, especially that pertains mom, we don't have now to start again contributing. The money that we've been accumulating in the money market account is what would actually be withdrawn to do that emergency without necessarily telling each other, now let's contribute, that. We don't afford that. Why am I telling you all this story? I want to take charge of your money. Take charge of it. You want to support your parents, but I agree with your mom. Based on my current income, this is the amount I can afford to be sending to you every month, and you'll be getting it every 10th. And mom, please, I only have one source of income. Don't be calling me on the 4th. Don't be calling me on the 9th. Don't be calling me on the 15th. It is the 10th. And be very intentional to keep it in your budget and in your diary. That every 10th, I'll be sending mom 15,000. And the story ends there. You are the one putting the controls. Because you know what is happening? I've met a lot of people who have used all their resources to support their parents and siblings. And later in life, you realize that you never took care of yourself. The ones you supported have since moved on. You're left now in a quagmire. Those people you supported, they even come back to you because they think that you always have free money. They now want to even request if you can be educating their children. Even when they are building, they can even come and ask for a soft loan from you, which they are not going to pay back. Put controls. Those that want to borrow money, walk with them to the bank. Let them borrow from the bank. Because in case they default, the bank has got recovery mechanisms. You don't have. If you have to give them what you can afford to lose. But do things in a structured way. A lot of us are doing responsibilities that are not ours. You've taken care of your parents. You've taken care of your siblings. Now you're educating your nephews and nieces. And when the time comes, you don't even have savings to educate your own children.
You want to be good
to everyone. You want to be good to everyone except yourself. So when the time comes, it will be a time of crying and regretting. I wish I never did this. I wish I took care of myself. Some people have distributed all their resources to relatives. As I said, you're even supporting your aunties. You're supporting your uncles. They are in your payroll. And you yourself won't be able to meet your own contractual obligations. There's a gentleman who came to see me early this year. This is around the 5th of January. This young man comes from Western. He says that he comes from Kisumu. But something interesting he told me. This guy reached out to me on LinkedIn. Interestingly, reached to me on LinkedIn. And the conversation I could tell, this is a very, very young person. So because he insisted, I gave him an appointment to see me. And we met at Java of Haringham. The guy came and told me, Alfred, thank you so much for making this sacrifice to see me. I ran an Uber business. And I don't own a car. I'm leasing a car from somebody. And that person who has given me a car, I normally pay her every day $1,300. I've been doing this business the last 5 years. But I've realized that in those 5 years, the number of people that I support started off with my mother, went to my brothers, went to my sisters, went to my uncles, went to my aunties. I'm now even supporting nieces. And the reason why, Alfred, I wanted to see you at this very beginning of the year is because this year and for the next 5 years, I want to go missing. I was like, what do you mean? You want to go missing? I asked him, what do you mean? He's called Collins. He told me, Alfred, I've taken care of too many people. I now need to take care of myself. I'm 35 years today. The next 5 years, I need nothing that does not support my own savings agenda. The guy had 2 phones. Interestingly, he told me that all my relatives have this number. But I've bought a new one this year because I'm going missing. They will not get me. It is me who can call if I need to call them. For now, the only person I want to support is my mother. Because she needs some medication here and there. But the other people, I'm dropping them. The next 5 years, I want to take care of myself. So Alfred, tell me, you've always been talking about financial planning. I don't have an emergency fund. I am not even married. I don't have children, and I'm now 35 years old. I am not too sure where I'm headed in life. So tell me, where do we start? We settled on a money market account. And after activating the account, the guy told me, Alfred, I want to start putting the money today. The same way I'm paying the lady who has given me the car, I'll also be funding this account on a daily basis. You believe it or you don't believe it. And this I'm talking about an Uber driver who does not even own the car. So far, he's been able to put in that account some 30,000. And see, he started the journey when? Around the 5th of January. He has already put in 30,000, and he says his target was to put 35,000 this particular month. Now, big question. If this man now maintains that kind of savings every month, between you and me, in the next 1 year, he'll have enough money to buy his own car. The conversion will change. In the next 1 year, he'll buy his own car. When he buys his own car, the 1,300 that was paying somebody, he will stop paying. It will not become part of his savings. And at that particular juncture, the guy will most likely be able to save maybe 3,000 shillings every day. If he saved 3,000 shillings every day, it means that he's touching almost 100,000 shillings every month in terms of savings. Look at that. If the guy now started doing 100,000 shillings savings, where do you think he's going to be in the next 5 years? He'll be settled. He'll be having some regular income that is much reliable. He might be married then. He might even use some of the resources to set up a business for the wife. He'll be having an emergency fund. He'll be on the right track now to putting funds together for education of the children, and the rest will be history. That is exactly what I'm talking about. You have to come to a point where you make hard decisions. And this is one of the hard decisions. Deciding and dictating to have controls around black tax. How much and to who. Not everyone should be depending on you. There are people who shouldn't depend on you. Because people in Kenya are notorious. The moment they realize that you are generous, you are kind, they even want you to educate their own children. They will always give you responsibilities. Some people are broke today because they have even paid mortgages for others. You are still paying rent. But the people you are paying for are owning houses.
You will never give enough.
You imagine, you can never give enough. And by the way, no one will keep record of how much you give them. It doesn't matter. 10 years later, if you're not giving, they will think that you are not a friend. You are not important to them. You are only important when you are giving, not when you're not giving. So please, there's no much that you can give that will be enough. Let's put controls. As you take care of other people, take care of yourself. I want you to know, by the way, there's an animal that we call a rhino. As I talked about the lion, let me now talk briefly about a lion, because it's a message about a lion. If you've looked at a lion, every time it's walking in a posture that is going to attack something. The moment it sees a threat coming, it charges towards the threat, ready to attack. That's a rhino for you. I want you to be like a rhino. There are enough threats on your path. The first threat could be spending without a budget. Second threat could be lifestyle demands. That threat could be lifestyle. That threat could be the networks that you have around you. The other threat could be black tax. Confront all these threats for you to be able to make your individual financial turnaround. If you don't deal with the threats, you'll fail financially. And black tax is one of those threats. You don't run away from supporting your people, but support them with controls. Be as smart like that animal. Put boundaries. It's not your responsibility to educate everyone in the society. It is good support, yes. But how much can you do? Put controls. Don't give what you don't have. The Kenyan men and women are taking loans to support other people. You are taking a loan to support somebody. Did you know just as approximately 61% of people who are borrowing money today, 61% of people who are borrowing money today have no intentions of paying back? 61%. So if you're borrowing money to support such a person, you can be sure in the next few months, you'll be crying. You helped somebody, they got out of the mess, but when you demanded to be paid back, they blocked your number. They no longer pick your calls. They don't respond to your messages. They don't respond to your emails. That's the order of the day in Kenya. So do things with control. Do what you must do. There are those that matter in your life. Support them. But don't go beyond your financial ability. That now even surviving on debts, trying to support others. And one time comes, you're not even able to take care of your own financial responsibilities. Some of the people in the diaspora, my friend, have lived and worked in, say, countries such as US, UK, Australia. And a lot of them, if there's anything that has affected their financial stability, it's brack tax. Every small financial responsibility is being assigned to them. They work around the clock. For them, they have to put their sweat to get every shilling. Some of them are doing 3 jobs. Some are working for 16 hours, 17 hours. Because your remuneration is on hourly basis. The more you put in terms of hours, the more you're likely to get out in terms of income. So they are giving it their all. Some people cannot even travel. They cannot even have a holiday. They cannot even have a weekend to rest. They can't sleep enough because they're busy looking for this extra money. Most of this money supports their bills there, but there's a good chunk of it that finds its way to Kenya in form of brack tax. You're supporting your mother, it's a good thing. You're supporting your siblings who are in school, it's a good thing. But the problem is that it doesn't stop there. When you've taken care of your siblings, you've taken care of your parents, the Kenyan people will now start giving you the next responsibility. Educate the nieces and nephews. Some of the guys in Kenya today have bought cars, have paid their dowry, have built houses, have built apartments using money that was sent to them by their, their brothers and sisters who work abroad. And the ones who work abroad have nothing for themselves. You worked in US for 20 years, and the day you want to come back, you have nothing. The people that you are supporting with your money have huge rental incomes. And the fact that now they know you're no longer going to be of much economic value to them, they broke your relationship. They're not interested anymore. You supported them that time. Now you've come back, they are not willing to support you as well in your settlement. It's a big monster. It's a big monster. In US, the people there, emotions don't work. You have to work. You actually have to work. And when I look at the Kenyan counterparts here, how much we put into our businesses. The most hardworking people here in Kenya work for 8 hours. The most hardworking, they work 8 hours. But if you're working 8 hours in US, you are a very lazy person. People wonder what you came to do in US. 8 hours. You have to put in double of that at the minimum. But not many of them are achieving financial goals. They have made money, yes, but that money has not made much in terms of their financial milestones back at home. Most of the money that you made ended up in pockets of relatives that you support. And the number of those that you support only increases by the day. It doesn't reduce. It only increases. So instead of people now being so structured to know how much should I direct into supporting the family and how much should be for my own investment, a lot of times, at times people mix up matters. We are so emotional on issues of brack tax that we think that the ones that you're supporting will one day take care of you. They will not. They will not. Some of the Kenyans that have worked and lived in the diaspora have since come back to Kenya for retirement, and they are frustrated, they are disappointed, they are isolated. No one is willing to support them. If you have to come back to Kenya, you'd rather come back with money to support yourself. If you're coming back with stories of brack tax, I am telling you, you'll soon find yourself in your own world. People will not be with you. So I had a trip last year, I remember, at some point, July, August. And I was very, very specific. I visited US, and the state that I visited is Seattle. And there are enough Kenyans working in Seattle. And these are guys that are working out the clock. Very hardworking people. Guys, Kenyans are hardworking. Kenyans are hardworking. But when I introduced them the conversation of personal investment, the biggest challenge that a lot of them are experiencing right now is that they're not able to take up personal investments because they're already entangled in issues of brack tax and issues of lifestyle on the other side. And I decided to tell them candidly how their retirement journey should look like. That this is the time that you now start making controls of how much you go out to support others, especially if you've not done much for yourself. Put controls. And you won't believe it. A huge number of people that I met managed to sign up their own retirement investments. And I'm still very, very excited that now we almost are near down the line. And they are now putting aside a portion of their income to build their own retirement savings, which they never did. And some of them have been there for 20 years, 25 years, 18 years, 19 years, etc. You know, the average retirement age in US is 67. But some of the people that retire there, coming back to Kenya becomes a nightmare. Because you coming back with nothing. Coming back with nothing. And that is not going to support your retirement agenda. So I used that opportunity in all the places that I visited within Seattle to tell people that when it comes to financial discipline, you have to take care of yourself as you take care of others. And you actually need to give yourself a priority. That when you make your money, there is a portion that should actually be directed immediately into building your own investment portfolio. Because that is what will ultimately give you the cushion that you need when you come back to Kenya. Otherwise, you might retire and stay in US. And there are, of course, people that have worked and retired in US, but they're able to come back to Kenya. You won't believe some of the people have become street people. They sleep in the streets. There are people there who have nowhere to live. They sleep in the car. You sleep in the car.
And you funded lifestyles.
You funded other people's lifestyles. You could not even live a decent life yourself in US because you're funding other people's lifestyles. And the ones you are funding don't have care of keeping something for you. They spend everything. Some people even send money from US to Kenya with intentions of investing. You've supported your people, but you're telling them, over and above that, I'm sending an extra so much money so that you guys can buy for me an apartment. Only to learn 4 or 5 years later that the money that you transferred for purchasing an apartment never did what it was intended. People use that money for their own gain. You are not a priority to them. You not even believe that some of the people working in the US don't even talk to their parents anymore. Don't even talk to their siblings anymore. You've been hurt. You supported them, and beyond that, you give them money to start some investments for you here, which they never did. The moment you get to know that they have actually been squandering your money, that relationship goes south. So I think for me, when it comes to issues of finance, you can never delegate some of your responsibilities. Investment is a very, very personal commitment. You got to do it yourself. No one can do it for you. You cannot even delegate retirement investment. You got to understand how your own individual retirement journey should look like. What should be the kind of funding that will make you stable at old age? How do you want to live when you retire? It's personal. It's very, very personal. So you've got to be involved. You can't just sit back and hope people the money you've sent them, they will take care of what you told them to do. They will not. So I think for me, financial planning then is a personal responsibility. All of us have got that responsibility. You need to be financially well one day. There's nothing wrong with going through the sacrifice that I talked about. But you know what you want to achieve. Have clarity of destiny. This is where I want to be 10 years from now. This is where I want to be 15 years from now. Those that want to buy houses, house purchase or building one requires a lump sum. You're not necessarily earning a lump sum. The only way to build a lump sum from your regular income is disciplined contractual investment. Have the discipline, have a budget. Allocate a portion of that income to go into that investment. Over a period of time, you'll have a fund that can be able to achieve the agenda. These are the things that help people to achieve. These are the things that help people to execute. Unfortunately, as I said, not many people are willing to be assisted. There is this thing of knowing it all. People think they know everything they need to know about their money. And that's why the financial sickness in our country is always at a very alarming level. The bulk of the people are sick. So many people are committing suicide. They're not committing suicide because that they have lived until God has forgotten them. No. You can't live anymore. You realize the pressure you're going through is too much. People are struggling with depression. And you realize that why we have these situations, most of them, is because of money-related reasons. In fact, to tell the truth, even when it comes to divorces that we are witnessing in our country today, financial mismanagement contributes a higher percentage of divorce than immorality. The number of those that are divorcing because of money-related reasons is actually higher than those that are divorcing because of immorality. Money is very critical. It's a conversation for everyone. Who doesn't talk about money anyway? Do you think there's a day you didn't talk about money? And you're working. Money is that pertinent in our lives. It's a critical conversation. But why is it that we are financially unwell most of the time? Because we lack the discipline. We lack the commitment. We over-procrastinate. We lack clarity on your financial roadmap. You need to always plan your future, your finances with the future in mind. As a mother, for example, when you conceive, 9 months from there, the baby is born. And 18 years later, the child is going to university. You need to start planning appropriately. And you as a father, your responsibility does not end when you give your wife a baby. That's actually where the planning starts, if anything. You know that if the baby is born, exactly 18 years later, the child is going to university. So what level of financial preparedness do you need? Because that time you have enough time to build the security that child will need. But that's not what people are doing. When children are born in Kenya, we celebrate and we over-celebrate. We drink till dawn. People eat. They slaughter. But they forget to also do the investment for that child. So, Justus, this is about money. There's nothing wrong with falling. But don't stay there. You have to stand, dust yourself, and move on. Unfortunately, a lot of Kenyans, when they fall, they want to stay there. A lot of them are waiting for Jesus to come and pick them up. Jesus is not in a business of picking people who are irresponsible. You have to make a decision that from now on, because I've learned where I was making the blunders, I would allow myself to undergo a transformation. The person I was yesterday and the person I'm going to be tomorrow are different. How I was managing my money before I got this information and how I'm going to be managing it now that I have the information is going to be different. And you know what? There is still a chance for a turnaround. There's this gentleman who owns Virgin Atlantic. Is it called Richard Branson? I think it's called Richard Branson. This guy says that he started 7 businesses. Every time he would start a business, within a few years, it would collapse. Again, he would start another business. After a few years, it would collapse. It is on the 7th attempt that he succeeded. And the guy now is one of the richest on earth. He says the moment he got to know where he was getting it wrong, he never repeated the mistakes. Why can't we be able to embrace such attitude? That yes, you'll be failing just like Richard Branson. But the moment you get to know where you've been getting it wrong, you choose to make the correct steps going forward. I read the other day, a book written by Warren Buffett, and this guy was saying that at his age of 90 today, if you took away everything that he has, and here he's among the top 10 richest on earth, if you took away everything that he has and gave him another 5 years, he will still shine. And the guy is 90 today. He's 90. Why is it that Kenyans who are 40 years are already feeling so hopeless? Is that though they have lost everything? You can always make a new beginning today. But put the right steps going forward. Don't repeat the mistakes of yesterday. If you didn't know how to do financial planning, if you didn't know the importance of working with an expert on financial planning matters, and now you have known, I think the most important thing to do going forward is to ensure that you will never go back to where you came from. Never repeat the mistakes that you were making earlier. Let this now begin the starting point of a new life. Do things correctly. Make decisions correctly and timelessly at the same time. You may not be able to achieve so much because, of course, time is also a factor, but you'll actually be able to make an impact. Of course, the younger you are, at the time you're getting to know these things, the better. But even that old person who is learning at old age still has a chance to make an impact, regardless of how big or small, but they will be able to make an impact. Attitude is the most important thing. You can never make an omelette without breaking the eggs. That attitude is very important. Focus on those small habits that will build your financial wellness. But the time to do it is not tomorrow. It is immediately. Because as I said, the biggest monster for most of the people is the procrastination. Yes, you have learned, but you want to execute next week. Yes, you've learned, you think the time to execute is next month. Yes, you've learned, the time to execute is next year. What are you doing with you today and tomorrow? Start immediately. You can always think big. You start small, but you got to start now. That career that you want to have, that career that you want to own is a big thought, is a good thought. But because you don't have the resources for the current today, start small. That I'm earning this much, start with that. But for you then to have the right focus, start now. The now aspect is the biggest monster for people. They want to start, but not now. Later. Everything is being packed for later. So if you have to succeed financially, the right decisions have to be executed now, going forward, not later in life. The more you wait, the rest will be the commitment in the future. Get started. Get started. I think for me, the best news is that at times I come across people who are in their late 20s who are feeling like they're already starting to panic. They're running out of time. They feel they can't go another week without getting started. It makes me happy. That's someone who has learned the gospel. But the biggest encouragement, as I told you, those people of 40s who are still spending as though they are 22 years. The guy can even open his mouth widely and tell you that, I'm only 40 years. I'm only 45. Their feeling is too early. See, I just turned 40. You think that is the beginning of life? You actually are the tail end. You are the tail end. And you think you are too young to get started at 40 years. Is there anything Kenyans love more than being told that they're young? I think that is a single statement that pleases most of the people. That even when you're having 15 contours on your face, you still see value in being told that you are young. So there are some certain things that you need to do to create your financial wellness, but you're not doing them because you think you are young. Even at 55, you still think you are young. We need to change our mindset. We need to change our mindset. That immediately you are an adult and you have an opportunity to learn. The moment you start making money, from the onset, not all the money you're making is supposed to be for spending. Some of it is supposed to be for investing and savings. Start there. That's the only transformation that is going to change this country. But as long as we keep, doing the same old mistakes, we will never be able to progress. And that's the reason why, as I said from the beginning, 97% of people are still very sick financially. Because we're still carrying, into old age, the bad behaviors of money management. Living for today, enjoying everything you make, living for lifestyle, copy-pasting others, signing as guarantors for friends, black tax, work without a budget. These kind of mistakes are the ones that are making us to be in the space that we are operating. I meet with the people of all walks of life. I meet with people who are young. I meet people who are old. I meet people who are in their midlife. I get people who are employed. I get people who are in business. I get people who are financially failed. I get others who are getting into the mess. I'm dealing with people of all walks of life. For me, I'm available. Those that are in a bit of a mess, I help them correct their ways. Those that are feeling they have done what it takes to be on the right path, that I can actually give them the confidence that what you're doing with your money today will actually get you to the destiny that you wanted. The ones that have no clue, that I can immediately get them into my programs so that they can learn, but above all, take the appropriate action at this particular stage. I always tell people, if you don't manage your money, poverty is going to manage it for you. Rather than wait for the poverty to come in and manage, why can't I help you? If you're feeling financially sick, please don't wait for miracles. The first miracle is seeing me. I'll help you understand your situation. I'll help you understand yourself. I'll help you to interrogate this financial situation that you are in and be able to take appropriate action so that going forward, you see a transformation. I have seen a lot of people that came to me when they have financially suffered, but of course they were at the right age bracket. And I helped them with ideas here and there, and now they are on the right path to financial wellness. So I think for me, let's help them. Let's help them. If we can, let them come. But I'm looking for people, not because they have money, but because they have the will. Somebody who is willing to be shown the way. Because there are people who come already clinging on an idea that I have the money. We had one business called Nakumat. It was a mega business in Kenya. No one ever sat to imagine such a business coming down, but it did. Because maybe the structures of investment were not right. Structures of management maybe were not right. So even a person that has got so much money still needs financial coaching. Somebody tell you that this is how we can do things. This is what we need to avoid. These are some of the pitfalls that you would easily experience if you don't take care of this. We need such a person to come and actually tell you that you're on the right path or you're not on the right path. And what can you do to make yourself even better financially? You need that. People need to be seeing the financial experts, the financial coaches regularly. You come and table your situation. This is where I am. This is my budget. I'll share my budget too with people. I tell them, go and fill that budget. When you come to see me, we will interrogate that budget and I'll be able to look at, are you spending money in the correct way? Like some people, when I look at how much they spend, you realize that somebody is spending 25% of their income on rent. Just did you know that if you're spending more than 17.5% of your income on rent, you'll never be able to own a house. If you're spending more than 17.5% of your income on rent, you will never be able to own a house. It will take miracles. So some people will come and I tell them, hey, you're already spending 23% of your income on rent. Please, can you reduce this? Can you move out of that house? Move to this level. So that at least you're able to create room for some savings, which will actually be able to get you to the level that you want in the next 10 years. But as long as you are feeding all the money on things that are not going to sustain, you're not going to help you in the turnaround process. You'll not be able to achieve much. So back to your question, yes, we will collectively try to help our people out there. Those that are willing, they have the willpower, we will help them to correct their financial ways and so that they can become better people financially. I mean, all the social media platforms, to be precise, whether you searching for Alfred Mathu on YouTube, you easily be able to get me. Whether it's on Facebook, you easily be able to get me. Whether it's on TikTok, you easily be able to get me. Whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on LinkedIn. Did you know that LinkedIn is such a business platform where people are doing serious business? It's easy to get in touch with Alfred through the social media. Just search for Alfred Mathu. And those few that may also need my number, you can also give them my number. You can reach out to me through 0722 307 353. 0722 307 353. I always recommend, instead of just calling, because at times I will be in meetings and engagements, just drop me a message. Drop me a WhatsApp message and I'll be able to revert. Tell me how you connected with me, how you got to know my number, and introduce yourself appropriately, and I will definitely be able to get in touch. I presently have enough people who have been listening to some of my podcasts on YouTube, and they are reaching out to me from the diaspora. I think these days I have almost every single day I must get somebody from diaspora writing to me. Alfred, I listened to your podcast and I'm in a financial mess. Can you help me to start building my retirement fund? And that's what I'm happy to do. Whether we have an online meeting or whether I send you materials that you might need, I think at the end of the day, my passion is to help people to move out of their current financial mess into building with certainty paths that will get them to the realization of their financial agenda.